But in the meantime, here are the 1 and 2 stars.
Yes.
Films. First of all, then, Simon on Blue Sky ridiculously put Civil War at 5. Alien Romulus.
Hang on, Civil War at 5 in his worst films.
Yes. Then Alien Romulus at 4, which I liked. Madam Web at 3. Okay. Argyle at 2. Joker, Folie à Deux, at number 1.
Well, we're not on the same page, but thank you for writing in, because obviously, a broad smorgasbord of opinions is always welcome.
Now, when we'll do some more in a moment, I'm slightly nervous. When you do your top 5, have you got like 60 films at number 5, 70 films at number 4, and then a 3, 2,
I've got 4 films at number 5, and everything else is just 1.
Okay.
Because there have been more good films than bad films this year, and I hooray! I mean, when we were doing that rundown of my favourite films of the year, I know that I put Hard Truths in there, and I'm already feeling really bad about that, because I said I hate it when people do that film with a film that hasn't been released, and I know that Hard Truths isn't actually released until January.
But you did it anyway, so
I did it anyway, and then I really felt bad about it.
Okay, so worst 5. We could be here for a while. How many have we got?
No, well. Yes, okay, so I have cheated again slightly, in as much as I've done joint 5, but it's not like the last one. It's not like 23 different ones. It's only, I think, there's less of them. So my joint number 5, worst 5 films of the year: Twisters, ugh. The Exorcism, the Russell Crowe. Actually, The Exorcism it was finished a while ago, but they're awful. Borderlands, Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver, which I was just bored out of my mind by. Madam Web, which has proved very, very popular. And Christmas Eve in Miller's Point, which I have noticed has turned up on some critics' best of the year lists, which just goes to show that diversity of opinion is a wonderful thing. So that's joint 5. Into the top 4.
Okay, Rockin' Chimp on Blue Sky. Number 5, Imaginary. Number 4, Baghead. Number 3, Sasquatch Sunset. Number 2, No Way Up. And number 1, the worst film of the year, Madam Web. Andy on Threads, Arcadian at 5, Megalopolis at 4, Trigger Warning at 3, Afraid at 2, and Madam Web at number 1. I'm spotting a trend here. Give us your number 4.
My number 4 of worst films of 2024 is Red One, which is currently in cinemas, and just is one of. And this is important when you're judging how bad a film is. You have to judge it by what it could have been, what kind of resources, this is a film with money and stars and studio backing and all the time in the world to get the thing right, and it's absolutely terrible. And I think that is worse because of the amount of stuff that it had to play with. I think that's why it's so bad.
So Damon on Threads, he says you could put these in any order. They're all terrible. However, the redactor has put them in what he believes to be the correct order.
Oh, okay, fine.
Which feels a little bit of that's unnecessary editorializing, I think. But anyway, Crazy House, Lift, Damaged, Rebel Moon Part 2, Madam Web.
Glad to see Rebel Moon Part 2, the Scargiver, or whatever it was called, getting a look in. Well done.
Lee on Blue Sky, 5, The Crow remake, Just Why. 4, Deadpool and Wolverine, tedious key jangling of nods and winks. 3, Salem's Lot, bloodless, disjointed adaptation, clearly culled from a longer series. 2, Hellboy, The Crooked Man, snoring noises. And number 1, Madam Web.
Yeah.
Spider, brackets, birdsong, close brackets. Okay, so let's do number 3 in Mark's list of the worst movies of the year.
Okay, so bear in mind, for me, Madam Web was joint 5th worst film because it is absolutely terrible. But for me, at number 3, and again, the reason is because when you consider the heritage weight behind it, when you consider the huge canvas that it has and the built-in audience that it has, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is absolutely unforgivable, because when you're given that kind of that scope to make a film that boring and that just perfunctory is really, really poor. So Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
Okay, so Nick says Joker Folie à Deux 5. Ridiculously, he puts A Quiet Place Day 1 at number 4, which I enjoyed. So that's ridiculous and dumb. Gladiator 2 at 3, The Critic at 2.
Oh, come on.
And I know, precisely. And Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes at number 1.
Okay.
The Movie Mambo podcast says Challengers at 5. I mean, this is like, what? Paddington in Peru at 4. I mean, what? Alien Romulus at 3. I mean, what?
What
kind of a podcast is that? Roadhouse at 2 and Ghostbusters Afterlife at number 1. Anyway, okay. So where have we got to? Number 3 in the mark list. No, number 2 in the mark
number
list.
2. Now, this is a very interesting thing because if you remember, my number 1 favorite film of the year was The Substance, which stars Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley.
Yes.
My number 2 worst film of the year is Drive Away Dolls, co-starring Margaret Qualley. And this, for me, is like one of those things when you win an Oscar and a Razzie in the same year.
Okay.
And what it demonstrates is that the fault is to do with the filmmaker. And this is the kind of the weird thing with that film is it should be so much better. I mean, it's Ethan Coen. It's written by Ethan Coen, Trisha Cook. It's got a great cast. I mean, like a really good cast, a cast so good that the star of it is actually in my favorite film of the year. And it was tooth-gratingly insufferable and smug and full of itself. And again, I put it so high up because it should have been so much better. And it was so surprising just how bad it was.
Okay, so just before Mark's worst film of the year, Matt McGrath on Blue Sky, this is his top 5 of the worst films. So worst films of the year 5.
Yeah.
Number 5, Megalopolis. Number 4, Megalopolis. Number 3, Megalopolis. 2, Megalopolis. 1, Megalopolis. And Scott on Blue Sky, 5, Night Swim. 4, Drive Away Dolls. 3, Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire. 2, It's What's Inside. And number 1 is Madam Web.
Yes.
Okay. Worst film of the year. Here we go. Mark pronounces.
Well, I have to say, and it's weird, this is kind of one of those things in which we're completely in sync with the listeners. I had considered going number 5, Megalopolis, number 4, Megalopolis, number 3, Megalopolis, number 2, Megalopolis, and number 1, by a country mile, worst film of the year, Megalopolis. And one of the lovely things about this is, again, I see that it's turned up on some critics' lists of best films of the year. Obviously, always fantastic to have a divergence of opinion, and really great for people to be passionately disagreeing with each other. Megalopolis is not so much a vanity project as an insanity project. It is an appalling piece of filmmaking. It's a genuinely badly made film. And I was asked at one point, somebody said, would you recommend people go along and see it? Because it's so bad, it's brilliant. So no, it's just so bad. It's holding your eyelids open with matchsticks while yet more CG waffle goes on. And the low point for me was the point at which Adam Driver started reciting Shakespeare badly, and the film seemed to think that was fine. Oh, and John Voight doing. I mean, it's astonishing to look at John Voight and think of all the amazing things he's done. Like Coming Home is such a brilliant film, and then he ends up here. It's a terrible, terrible, terrible movie.
And everyone should be thoroughly ashamed
of themselves, yes.